right, let's pray. God, we thank you for this evening. Back together again with the youth group. Thank you, God. It's been a while. It's been a minute with all this that's going on, but we're just happy to be here in your presence and ready to glorify you and praise you. And tonight, God, we praise you and we tell you to pour your spirit and your presence and just show up and show out, God. In the name of Jesus, amen. We praise you tonight, God. Praise be a weapon that silences the enemy. Let praise be a weapon that conquers all anxiety. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We sing your name in the dark and changes everything. We sing with all we are, we claim your victory. Let it rise, let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Let faith be a song that overcomes a raging sea. Let faith be the song that claims the storm inside of me. Let it rise. Let praise arise. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, this is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you. Come on, everyone. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what heaven looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what heaven looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation's cry, God, we praise you. We'll see you break down every wall. We'll watch the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation cry, God, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, we praise you. Oh, gonna let it out. I can't hold back my praise. I'm gonna let it out. I can't hold back my praise. Sing it up. I'm gonna let it out. I can't hold back my praise. I'm gonna let it out. I can't hold back my praise. I gotta let it out. I can't hold back my praise. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom feels like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. This is what living looks like. This is what freedom sounds like. This is what heaven sounds like. We praise you, we praise you. We'll see the every wall. We'll see the giants fall. Fear cannot survive when we praise you. The God of breakthroughs on our side. Forever lift him high. With all creation, God, God, we praise you. Jesus. I searched the world, but it couldn't fill me. Man's empty praise and treasures that fade are never enough. And you came along and put me back together. And every desire is now satisfied here in your love. Come on, sing it out. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Afraid to show you my weakness, my failures and flaws. Lord, you've seen them all, and you still call me friend. 'Cause the God of the valley is the God of the valley. Your mercy and grace and find me again. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. There's nothing, nothing is better than you. Come on, we're gonna get excited about this. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn mourning to dancing. You give beauty for ashes. You turn shame into glory. You're the only one who can. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Oh, there's nothing better than you. Sing it.
There's nothing better than you.
Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you. Oh, there's nothing, nothing is better than you. You turn graves into gardens. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one one who can. You turn grace into gold. You turn bones into armies. You turn seas into highways. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. You're the only one who can. Before David comes there, let's sing it one more time. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you. One more time. Oh, there's nothing better than you. There's nothing better than you, Lord. There's nothing. Nothing is better than you.
Okay, thank you guys. Thank you. Let's give them a round of applause. Thank you, Luis and the team for leading us. You guys can take a seat if you would like to. If you want to keep standing, go for it. All right, how you guys doing this evening? Rowdy bunch. Just kidding. Oh, am I okay here? All right, we're good. Okay, so we're going to be talking tonight a little bit about, well, before we start, my name is David McCormick. For those of you who don't know, I'm married to Andrea McCormick, once Soto. So half the people here are related to my wife's family, so. Familia, bienvenidos. What? No, it's okay. This is fine, actually, yeah. Okay, so what we're going to be talking about this evening is what do you believe about, okay, disclaimer from the beginning. I am born and raised in the United Republic of Canada. It's not called that, actually. So in the title is a word that might sound a little different coming out of my mouth than it would sound coming out of yours. If I say a word that you see sounds a little different, just think, wow, he's an international speaker. Cool, huh? And so don't judge, okay? Especially that familia that we mentioned at the beginning. Try not to judge. So I say about a little bit more like about, and that's fine, okay? And sorry, who has the microphone? That's right. Okay. So we're going to say, what do you believe about God? Okay? So this is what we're going to be talking about. So I want to start off asking you guys a question. Who of you, can someone tell me what is their favorite soundtrack of a movie? Yes. You don't have to. Yeah, go ahead. Oh, totally agree with you. Yes. Well, it's not the best, but it is up there. Okay. Anyone else? Yes. What did he say? Kung Fu Panda? Wow, we're just watching that this afternoon. Kung Fu Panda 2. Nacho Libre? Well, sorry, what's your favorite soundtrack? Tenet. Yeah, it's a little intense. I have the soundtrack on my phone, and then I'm like driving. I'm like, I'm gonna drive into the plane. But okay, anyone else? Your favorite soundtrack from a movie? Okay, Lion King. Sure. All right. So what is the deal with soundtracks? Is that when you are watching a movie, whether you realize it or not, there is always music playing in the background. Okay. There are rarely ever just pieces or moments in the movie where everything is silent. There's music going on in the background. And what does that music do to you? It makes you feel a certain way that goes along with what the people want you to feel with the images and the words that are being said. It's this whole production, right? Now, I want to ask you guys or present the idea that in your life, in different situations in your life, there is a soundtrack. There's background music going on, okay? So if I were to ask you guys, when you get in trouble from with your parents, they discovered something, or you've just been kind of jerk lately, and you're having a confrontation with them, and they're like, hey, we need to sit you down and talk to you. Or like the worst is when your mom is like, when your dad gets home from work, we're going to have a little talk. And you have that like moment or like hours of suspense. Like, what is that going to look like? What is that? So if you can think of that moment, or if you are already older and you don't live with your parents and you're working, it's like, and your boss is like, we're going to have a little talk later on today, right? And you're just like, this is the worst. Okay, in that moment, if your movie was if your life was a movie and we were to put pause on that moment, what would the soundtrack be? What would the background music be playing? Tenet. No. Who else? What kind of genre of the music would it be in the background? Yeah? Okay. You got a friend in me? Okay. You like go for your happy place even though you know it's about to come. Okay, I was talking to a mom the other day and she says that I was like, "So what is the background music you listen to when you're taking care of your kids?" And she's like, "Heavy rock." Right? Like she feels like it is so chaotic in her house that she's listening to heavy rock. Okay. Why am I telling you all this and what does that have to do with about God? In the music that is going on in your life, whether you're making a decision, whether you feel like you can't make a decision, whether you are feeling trapped in your house or you feel like things have never been better, there's background music going on. Now, the thing about the background music in our lives is that it always has words to it, okay? So I want you to think about this. In those moments, there are words in that background music, and it has a message that we are constantly telling ourselves, whether we know it or not. And if you think, no, I don't do that, it's because you're not aware of it, okay? So what we're going to try and do is bring that message. What is it that you're really thinking about? What is the message that you're really telling yourself? And deeper than that, really, the message that you're telling yourself is what are you believing? Okay, so I'm going to give you guys an example. For me, personally, I've been in that situation where someone's like, I need to have a serious talk with you next Thursday at 7 p.m. And you're like, for real? What? Who does that, right? Like, no, the serious talk right now. Like, I don't want to live this whole week with, like, the pending serious talk. Okay, so for me, the music is tense. And the message is, oh, you're in for it. Like, this is bad. This is the worst. And I'm analyzing all the things that I've done, all the things that I've said, and ultimately I'm thinking, I am bad. Or like, whatever this is, this reflects bad on me. I am bad. So the message that is in my soundtrack is saying to me, you are bad. And the messages that we are thinking about in our minds are the messages that we believe. I want to explain it to you guys like this before we get into what we actually believe, so we kind of know what beliefs look like and what they are. So who of you likes to think? Okay, just a few of us likes to think. Okay, who of you are more like emotional people, like you'd rather feel, right? You'd feel the things, right, before you think? Okay, so some of us are more thinkers. Some of us are more like feelers, right? We're kind of different. Now, the Bible talks about that you should take captive your thoughts. Okay, but it never says that you can take captive your emotions. Do you know why? Because it is impossible for you to change your emotions. I could not stand here today and be like, hey, you're sad? Just be happy. Come on. You're depressed? No. Stop that. Just quit it. Come on. Or if someone's like really happy, like, you know what? You should really think about being sad right now. And it sounds funny, but if you've ever felt guilty, if you've ever felt ashamed, if you've ever felt angry and someone comes to you and says, don't feel that way, does that work? Okay, so the Bible agrees with us. We're not supposed to take captive our emotions because that's something we just can't do. So I'm going to tell you how it works, and then I'll tell you what this has to do with beliefs. We can take captive our thoughts, okay? Everyone, if you can put up your hand like this. There you go. Okay, on this level up here are our thoughts, okay? Then a level below, like close to your heart, are your feelings, okay? I need to put down the mic for this part. Sorry, live stream. Okay, when your thoughts line up with your emotions, you have a belief. Okay? Does that make sense? Okay. So, what can we not change? Our emotions. If I were to say to you too, just believe something. Okay, where does that belief get into your life? It's going to get in through your heart or through your mind. Those are the only two ways that things can get into your life. Like, I could talk to you guys like this really intense talk about what the Bible says, and you're like, oh, I get it. And that is a way that your thoughts will start to change. Your emotions will eventually catch up. And once they do, you will have a new belief. Okay? So, this is like 101. Like, I'm a therapist, okay? So I talk to a lot of people all the time. And a lot of what we do is I'm just identifying what they're thinking and how it's affecting what they're feeling, and then trying to get them to think something different. That's like psychology 101. That's all it is. Like, that's all we are. It's not so complex. So we're talking about beliefs tonight. What do you believe about God? So I'm going to ask you guys this first one. Sorry, Raquel. We're almost at the second slide. Okay, it's going to go a little bit faster from here. What comes into your mind when you think about God? Can someone just, if you don't have to, but can someone just yell something? Like, what comes into your mind when you think about God? Love. Okay, anyone else? Father. Okay, don't think about it too much. Just like what comes into your mind. I'm like, what do you think about God? Creator. Forgiveness. Anybody else? Powerful, okay. Sorry? Fierce? Oh, peace. Sure. I like it. Okay, if you can go to the next one. This is a quote I read, and I want to talk to you guys about this. By the way, A.W. Tozer, if you guys read anything by him, it's probably really good stuff. But he says something that is very interesting. He says, what comes into our minds when we think about God is the most important thing about us. What you think about when I say God, the background music, the soundtrack that you listen to when I say God, when you walk into this place that you associate with God, and you're listening to this music and it's saying something, there's a message going on in your head. This very wise man is saying that is the most important part of who you are. Why do you guys think that is? Why does it matter so much what we think about God? I'll tell you why. I could ask you guys, who is God? And you guys are going to give me 25 different things. He's this, and all of you are correct. But none of you are telling the whole truth, right? Because whose truth is that? Like, who said, what was one of the things? Love. How do you know that God is love? That can be a rhetorical question. You don't have to answer. How do you know that God is forgiving? How do you know that? Sorry? Okay, it says in the Bible, yeah. Anybody else? Any other, like, how do you know that God gives you peace? Sorry, what? Okay, it makes you feel better. Okay. So all these things, I want to try and just talk about this. And you guys can totally disagree with me about this, because that's totally fine. We're getting to the Bible in 1 second, and I don't think any of us disagree with this or disagree with that part. But I'm convinced that what you think about as a reflex says a lot about who you are. And I want to kind of peel away a couple of the layers and really ask, why do you believe that? Why did he say love and not peace? Why did he say forgiveness and not powerful? What are the things that you have learned about God? And then I want you guys to realize, what are we supposed to believe about God? Is there a right answer? Is there something that, did Seva say it? Or did Marco say it? Is there someone who has like the right answer? Because what you believe about God isn't necessarily who he is. Okay? The belief that you have, if you think of it like, your perspective is this, okay? And so what you believe about God is this. God is not necessarily, well, obviously, God is not confined to what you believe about him. Because how many of you guys know that there are people in other places just like this who are preaching something very different about the same God, supposedly, using the same Bible, but preaching something very differently? So whose truth is it? What is the truth? And do you believe the truth? If what you thought and what you feel has come to be a belief, but what is it really true? Is what you're believing about God the truth? We're good up until now? I haven't lost anybody? I can't really see your eyes, so if you're bored, just fall asleep. I won't even notice, okay? Unless you like full on open your mouth, then I would probably notice, but I won't judge. Maybe a little, but I won't tell you. Okay, so next one, Raquel. I'm going to go through this kind of quick. Okay. Also, if you're bored, just raise your hand, and I'll be like, okay, too boring. We'll go a little faster. Okay. It won't offend me. Okay. If I believe this, then God is like this. Okay. How many of you know guys that are just like, God is awesome? Like, God is just like, and they're so excited. Like, do you know anybody like that? No? Usually those people who are so excited, they're just like, they believe that God is that. Like, God is just like, yeah, like just on your team, and he's so excited, right? Because that's what they believe about God, okay? But let's keep going down the list. I am indifferent about God. How many of you guys know someone who's just kind of indifferent? Like, they're not really, and I honestly confess that I've lived seasons of my life where I just feel like, God, I guess you're there, kind of, but like, I'm kind of busy, and like, I don't know, just don't feel like you're really there. What I believe about God, I'm kind of indifferent. I usually tend to believe that God is kind of indifferent too. He's just kind of like, yeah, take your time, I'm good. Like, I got other stuff going on too, right? So what we believe about God is usually, or what we believe, or where we're coming to God is what we usually believe how God is coming to us. Let's keep going. I'm angry with God. God did something, or God allowed something. He let someone die. He did this to me. He let that happen. He could have prevented this. He didn't. And so there's this kind of deep, lingering anger. There's a belief. Why? Because there's a feeling, or there's a thought. God let this happen, and now there's feelings. I'm angry. And so there's a belief. I'm angry with God. And so those kind of people tend to believe that God also is angry with them. Well, if you weren't such a dumb sinner, I wouldn't have to do all this stuff or let all this stuff happen. There's kind of this mutual place where we come to, okay? Last one, I'm ignorant about God. People who are just like, I don't really know anything about God. I don't know, right? They usually, they kind of think of, I like this word, if you don't know it, aloof. Just kind of like, I don't know. God's kind of there, I guess. I don't know. They tend to think that God is just like, what? Who said that? Oh, all those humans down there. I don't even know who's talking, right? Like, who's praying all at the same time? They kind of tend to think that God is ignorant about them. So what you think right now, the way that you perceive God, is he a judge to you? Do you feel like he's judging you? Do you feel like he's just this, like, big marshmallow man who wants to just hug you and like, oh, I love you? Do you believe that about God? What is it that how do you really see God tonight? I think most of us, you know what happens? We fall into the second one. We know enough about him, but we're kind of like, yeah, but I don't really see how that affects my life. And I'm in a season of life right now where I need to kind of focus on different stuff. And also, I'm a little distracted. Like, I have followers to get, and I have things to do, and I have series to watch. And so I'm like, God. And so we tend to think that God is just like, yeah, I'm busy too. Don't worry about it. We're good. There's just kind of this mutual understanding. That's how we tend to approach God. So what you believe about God, how you come to the table in this, when I have that title, what do you believe about God? I really want you guys to think about this. What do you really think about when you think about God? What do you really think about? Because I think this guy has a lot of insight into this, because that influences how you see yourself. And that influences how you see the world, whether we like it or not. Because I've talked to a lot of people, and usually the people who are indifferent about God feel unsatisfied in their heart. Like, something's missing, but I don't really know, and I'm not really willing to do anything about it. People who are angry with God tend to feel resentful with life. They tend to be people that can't forgive themselves. There's just something they can't get over. There are these patterns where our beliefs anchor us down. And so I want to, the last little bit of our time, I want to really talk about how can we know? How can we know? It's not enough for you just to believe what you've always believed. And you know what? That may sound kind of scary for some of you, like, well, wait a minute, but my mom and dad taught me everything I know. Well, okay, that's cool. But like, that's not one of the options up here, because your mom and dad make mistakes. And I'm not saying that they're bad people. I make mistakes too. And there's only really one or two ways that you can really know the truth. And you guys have that truth. You have that possibility in your hands. Because there's only one source of truth, and that's God himself. But how many of us come to God thinking that we know who he is, but we're just we're just focused on what we think about him. How many of you guys like to be judged? Yeah? Monica, yeah, me too. like if, for example, when you guys walked in here, let's be honest, guys. Shut the cameras off. No, who felt, honestly, when you walked in here and you're like, ooh, who felt a little uncomfortable? Just a little bit. I didn't feel so uncomfortable because I was like one of the first people here. But for real, guys, I know that you probably felt a little uncomfortable. Why? Because all these people, and you're like, I don't really know many of these people, but like, and we're here, and there's like not a ton of us, but there are a lot of things going on, right? A lot of things that we don't say. But if you see someone and they're like, oh my gosh, did he really just wear that? Or we're like, oh great, he's here. And if I was to hear that someone was like, oh my gosh, David's speaking, this sucks. Like maybe I can like be sick or just pretend like I have to go to the bathroom a lot of times. I'm really impressed no one's been in the bathroom. I'm really blessed by that. But when we're judged by other people, it really doesn't feel very good. But I want to tell you guys that when you only think about God with what you know about God from whatever you've learned from in your life, you're judging him. And that's not fair because you can actually get to know him. You can actually get to know him, but lots of times we just settle for what we've been told about them and we don't go to the source. And so how can we do that? If you can go to the next one. There are, how can we know what God says about himself and the life of Jesus? This is what I want to focus on at the end. Sometimes when we think about God, we think about this big God over there and we forget the importance of the gospel, and that's kind of what I want to end on this evening. You can go to the next one. Okay, so I want to jump back a couple thousand years. Moses. All of you know Moses, right? What was like his most famous story? Burning bush, totally. And what happened to the burning bush? God appeared before him, and he's like, oh, take off my shoes, and because this is holy place, and God says, how does God reveal himself? How does he present himself? It's the first time in the Bible he says in Hebrew, I can't remember how to say it, it's like Javeh, and it's like Yahweh, I am, I've always been, I'm going to be the same forever. He's from the beginning say, whatever you think I am it consistently. I'm never going to change. I am the same thing always. That was what he was saying in his name. And Moses was like, okay, I will go and tell these people, but I need to know a little bit more like who because at first he was just like, I'm the God of your fathers. And it's like, okay, I'm going to need a little bit more info about who you are so I can go tell these people really what's going on. And he just says, Yahweh, I am all that am. And Moses is like, okay. And so he does what God says and he goes, but God doesn't answer all of his question. God does not tell him what he is like until we get to a long time after. God does all the miracles. He kills the Egyptians. He does the river with blood. He does all the things. He takes the Egyptians out, opens the Red Sea. Y'all seen Prince of Egypt? Soundtracks. Talk about soundtracks, right? Okay, and then takes them through the Red Sea. They get to the other side, and then God says, okay, you can come up and see my glory. I'm in a cloud, and the only one who's willing to go is Moses. And so he goes up, and he says, God, I just want to see your glory. And God says, okay, if you see my face, you're actually going to die because you can't handle that. No one can. Like, you can't get that close and live. And so from there, we already see that there's this distance between man and God, that man can never get too close. And so God says, but I'm going to show you, like, the place where I've just been. Right? Sometimes it's translated as the back of God, but it's actually the place where he just was, okay? It's like you just see like a flash of him, but you're not actually seeing who he is. And so we get to this place, if you can go to the next one, in Exodus 34:6. And this is the place that is the most important passage for the Jewish religion, because it is the first time that God says, this is what I am actually like. Up until this point, we've gone through Genesis, and we've been able to see like, okay, he's creator, he's all this stuff. Then we get to the beginning of Exodus, we say, okay, his name is this. He actually has a name, which is super important. But then God says, okay, I'm going to tell you, Moses. I'm going to tell you what I'm really like. It's like they've been kind of seeing each other, but he's like, okay, sit down. I'm going to actually tell you who I really am. Okay? So for me, this is the first time in the Bible that God is willing to give this information up. This is really important, okay? If something should influence what you think about God, it should be this passage. This is the foundation. This is the first time that God interacts with humanity and says, this is what I'm like, okay? Y'all good? Okay. It says this, and you passed in front of Moses proclaiming, the Lord, the Lord. Okay, pause here. Our translations of the Bible, it does not say the Lord, okay? It's saying Yahweh, Yahweh, okay? When God says it, it's in first person, and when we say it, it's Yahweh. I can't remember the other. It's like Ahve or something when God says it, right? And when the people say it, it's Yahweh because we're saying it back to him. So he's saying, I am, I always am. Whatever I am is never going to change because I'm going to be this forever, and you can count on this. That's what he's saying at the beginning. Lord is a title, and God is not saying a title here. He's not saying, I am the Lord. You will call me the Lord. He's saying, okay. It's like I were to come down and be like, my name is not Pastor. My name is David. You can call me David, right? That's what God was doing here. Okay, so sometimes with our translations with the Bible, it's a little confusing. But God is not giving a title. He's not saying, you shall call me the Lord, okay? Because titles mean a lot, you guys. For someone, for example, someone said Father, and that is one of the most intimate titles that we can have, right, with someone. We don't give that to anyone. Like, I'm not going to be like, hey, I want to be your dad, okay? Like, just call me Father. You'd be like, the police, right? Because titles have a lot of weight in them, okay? But if you know someone, if you go to Rouse's, and what are they going to say when you pay and you're done? What are they going to say to you? Thank you. At least to me, I don't know what they say to you. They say, thank you, sir, right? That's the title that they're giving me because we're just like kind of interacting. I don't remember the last person who was there at Rouse's, right? Like, I'm never going to see them again. So God here is not coming down and saying, Moses, you're going to call me the Lord, el Señor, el Jefe, the boss. No, he's not saying, he's like, okay, I'm going to tell you my real name. And what my real name means is this. In the Hebrew culture, their names were everything. Hey, Abram, originally, and then God changed it to Abraham, the father of many generations. When God changed his name, he changed the significance of who Abraham was. So when God reveals his name, it means a lot. And he's saying, okay, this is what my name means. I am. I'm always going to be. I am. All right. Sorry, that was a long pause right there, but we're going. Wait, the first word, you guys, look at this. Does he say like, the creator, the omnipresent, the omnipotent, right? Like we think he's like a wrestler being announced, like getting into the ring. What's the first word he uses to describe himself in the Bible? The compassionate. He just said, I am and I'm always going to be this forever. And the first word he uses to describe himself is the compassionate and gracious God, slow to anger, abounding in love and faithfulness, maintaining love to thousands and forgiving wickedness, rebellion, and sin. A lot of times we would want just to kind of stop there, right? Like we would just want it to be like, cool, done. Thanks God, like you're awesome. That's really cool because I got a lot of sin and wickedness, rebellion, and you're like gracious and all the good stuff. But God is so different than the perspective I have of him that he mentions this other part that I would honestly, there's a part of me just wanted to like leave that part out. But I'm going to tell you why this is the most important part, probably. Yet, he does not leave the guilty unpunished. He punishes the children and their children for the sin of the parents to the third and fourth generation. And so God is revealing this to the Moses. He's like, I am awesome. I'm compassionate, and I'm always going to be that, and I'm gracious. I don't get anger super easily. Like, I don't have a lot of triggers. Like, I'm really good at being God. Like, I'm awesome, but I'm also really holy. Like, you can't even see who I am because we're so different, because decisions that you've made have made you, like, we can't even be together. And when you do sin, you're going to have to pay for it. Like all the things, all the lies, everything, you're going to, like it doesn't just get erased. Like you're going to have to pay for it. And not even just you, like your kids and your children and their children and their children. And it's like, this is the message. If we only read the Old Testament, this is it. And so it's like, oh gosh, what do we do then? Well, God is gracious, but I got to keep from sinning at all costs. And so what I want to finish this evening talking to you guys about is that God, from this moment, made clear the need for the gospel. Without the gospel, there is no us and God. Without the gospel, there's no way that we could ever get beyond this last part. Because we are all guilty. We are all separate. All of us don't deserve to see where God is. And although by his nature he is gracious and kind, he's not just going to forget about the stuff. And so instead of saying, okay, I'm going to make this system, well, this is what he did. I'm going to make this system where they can kill things because someone has to pay the price. So okay, I'm not going to kill you guys. I'll kill these animals, okay? Deal? You kill these animals and they can take your bad stuff. Deal? Okay. And they did that and they were terrible at it. And then they started selling the animals and making money off of this whole system where God was like, oh my gosh, I just wanted you guys to be close. And now you're making money off this whole system. And so if you can go to the next slide. You can go to the next one, sorry. All of this comes to a place where if you guys don't believe anything about God, and I would say this, if you don't believe in the gospel, it really doesn't matter what you believe about God, because there's no way that you could ever get to him. And so what is the gospel? I've been mentioning this word a bunch of times, and I think we throw around this word a lot, and it's okay, what does this really mean? So let's look at it. The gospel, according to, in my opinion, one of the smartest men, if you ever want to read a couple books or listen to some podcasts, Tim Keller. Through the person and work of Jesus Christ, God fully accomplishes salvation for us, rescuing us from judgment for sin, into fellowship with him, and then restores the creation in which we can enjoy our new life together with him forever. And so the end game for God is that that one day, that separation will be taken away, and we actually will be able to do what Moses wanted. I want to see your face. And one day we will get to that place he's like, yes, this is the time for that. I can show you. And what is his presence? It's his goodness. It's like everything good in this world, right? Except notched up. We get to see him for who he really is. But the only way that we can get there is because God was like, okay, this whole system's not working. And I'm not trying to say that God made a mistake, because he didn't make a mistake. It was his plan the whole time. But there has to be some other sacrifice where man can't contaminate this. And so he says, I'm going to have to do something myself. And he sends Jesus. And Jesus grows up knowing what it feels like to be far from God. Because although he was God, there was still this distance. He couldn't have access to all the things that God wanted him to, or not wanted him to do. But he didn't have that access like we want sometimes. There was this distance. There was human stuff that Jesus had to go through. And so God was like, I guess I'll have to become one of them, so that perfect one of them can take the whole cost for all of them. In the Bible it says, through the first Adam, sin came into the world. Adam made a decision, and we're all affected by that. Through the second Adam, who is Jesus, everyone can be saved. And so this punishment part, the part that we don't like, God is gracious, yes, we love that. He's compassionate more than anything. He never changes. But he also does not just let sin go. And so he decides, okay, I'm willing to take the whole thing, all of your sins, past, present, future, everything you've ever done. You'll never have to wonder, will he forgive us? No, it's all settled. The tab is paid. And I'll put this all on Jesus' shoulders. And the whole weight of everything bad you've ever done goes on to him. And everything that you will ever do. There's nothing that God's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe David did that. That is totally outside of my plan. I had no idea he was going to lie so bad. She got drunk? Oh my gosh, Jesus, can we handle this? This is a big sin. And I'm not trying to make fun of, those are not great things. But Jesus already paid for it all. We don't ever have to wonder. The nature of God is fully aligned because there's no way that you could ever get to God. And so it doesn't matter if you think God is love if you don't believe in Jesus, because you could never get close to that love if you don't believe in Jesus, because there is only one mediator between God and man, and that's Jesus. And so we believe lots of things about God, and that is important. And I want to encourage you guys, look at these verses. But God gave us something even better than a description. He said, okay, better than just describing what I'm like, I'm going to send you me in human form. How many, for you, like, when you think of Jesus' life, you're like, that is the center? Or how many of us just see Jesus as like, I don't get the big deal about Jesus, really. It's like, okay, people love him, I guess. Like, but everything hangs on Jesus. Everything. Without him, without believing in that piece, why would you ever come to church? Because you know that God is never going to forgive you. Like, you can't get close to that. But he made a way through Jesus. He made a way through Jesus. And through Jesus, he takes all of the stuff that not only just keeps us from him, but all the stuff that just makes us feel horrible and terrible. And like it says in this last part, it's looking towards this new life when we are together. And so this is what I believe, and I've come to believe it over the past few years. And I'm telling you, I grew up in a Baptist church, which Baptists are very like conservative, and I learned a lot through my Baptist heritage, and I'm so thankful for it. But I didn't understand the gospel until I was an adult. Like, I really didn't understand what it meant. I didn't understand the importance of Jesus. But it's because I didn't really know. I didn't really want to know who God was. Because once I knew who God was, I realized, okay, I don't have what it takes to get there. And I need Jesus to get me to God. And so does every one of you. And so I want to just encourage you guys to think about it this week. What do you really believe? And how central is Jesus in what you believe? Is he just kind of like some accessory that you kind of add on sometimes? Like, and you're like, God, Jesus, whatever, it's all the same thing? No. Wait a minute. The Bible is very clear. Read any of the things that Paul wrote. He'll say, praise to God our Father and Jesus Christ his Son. They're not the same thing. This is kind of like murky waters because they're like God. But we need to understand what they're talking about, because Jesus is different than God the Father. Because through Jesus we get to God. We need that because we could never get to God ourselves. So whatever you believe about God, that's great. But you could never get there without Jesus. Now, Jesus, and once we get to know him, which can happen, I know it sounds a little like, what? But you can actually get to know him by reading about his life, by talking to him. And that is the way that you can know God. And I'm convinced this, when you put in those new thoughts, you guys, on this level, when you're thinking about Jesus and you're understanding like, oh my gosh, he did this. There were people that were really sick, and he wasn't like, ugh. He was like, okay, I'll go close. He says, if someone owes you a debt, just forgive it. Don't worry about it. He said, I know you read in the Bible that you should like kill if someone kills you. No, just forgive it. If your enemy comes after you and wants to like kill you, just give him your stuff. Like, Jesus lived this radical life that showed this different aspect of God. So we can get close to God through the life of Jesus, following him. I'll never forget, I was about your guys' age. Your guys' age. Between 13 and 30. No, I was like, I think I was 16. And this preacher came to our church and said, Luke 6:46, Jesus said, why do you call me Lord, Lord, and you don't do what I say? This was Jesus talking to his disciples. Why do you call me Lord, Lord, but you don't do what I say? And what was Jesus saying? Jesus was saying, go out and do crazy stuff. Put everything aside. Don't focus on your dreams. Don't focus on what you can get out of the world, but focus on what you can give. And I remember so clearly that night thinking, God, if I'm going to follow you, and if I'm going to really call you Lord, Lord, I'm going to have to do what you say. And that was the reason that I chose to become a missionary. I know for me, Now, this is going to be when we talk about decisions, and I think in a couple of weeks, I really want to clarify this because you do not all have to become missionaries, okay? This has been like something else I've learned. But for me, that was the path I was like, I have to take. Because I cannot, knowing myself, I will do mediocre. I will become this, and then I'll just settle. And so I need to go all in, and I became a missionary. I went down to a place where I didn't speak their language, and it was horrible, right? Because I believed, okay, Jesus was saying, don't call me something. The way that God revealed himself, I am the Lord. He's like, don't call me Lord if you're not willing to do what I'm saying. And so we see in the life of Jesus the revelation of who God is. So how many, for you guys, how central is Jesus? If he's not, I'm sorry, you guys. It doesn't matter what you think about God. You can have your PhD in theology. You're not getting any closer to him. Because the only way you can get closer to God is if you get closer to Jesus. It's the only way. A lot of us love to think about God in very kind of like those terms that I was saying a few minutes ago. And I would encourage you to think about those. But I want you guys to think about in these next couple weeks, what does God say about himself, and what does the life of Jesus say about God? And let that influence your thoughts. Influence your thoughts, what you're thinking. Let the primary source of what you think about come from the Bible. Come from the life of Jesus. Come from what God says about himself. And slowly, your emotions will follow. What you feel will follow your thoughts. The more you meditate about who God really is and what Jesus is, your emotions will follow to the point where, like I came to a couple years ago, I was just like, oh my gosh, like Jesus is it. Jesus is it, and it's so worth it. Like, I don't want anything else in this world except Jesus. That's where it became a belief. So we're going to start with our thoughts, guys. We're going to start with our thoughts. Don't worry about the emotions part or what you feel, right? That'll come. But what you can focus, what you can take captive, what you guys can do tonight, instead of watching the new, what's it called, season of Outer Banks. God bless them. I don't even know. I don't even know. You can watch Outer Banks, but spend 10 minutes looking at Jesus' life and asking God, who is this Jesus guy? I'm ready to actually meet him for myself and not just hear about him, but really to get to know him. Because it's the only way you get to know about God. All right. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay. I'm going to be giving you guys these sheets, and I think you guys are going to have some other meetings where I kind of write this out a little bit more, okay? Because I'm really sorry, guys. I don't usually talk this long either. I said a lot of stuff. So some of it's written down. I'm sorry, Mario. But it's all in here, okay? Everything I've talked about. I want you guys to think about a couple things when you leave, okay? This week that you go out your day, think about the soundtrack. What's playing in the background? What's the music like? What's the music like for you? And if it had words, which it does, what is the message that you are believing? What is the message that you're believing, okay? Think about that. And then if you want to change it, I encourage you, go to the source. What does Jesus say about you? What does God say about you? That's the only thing that matters. Okay, if you want to go to the last one, Raquel. Did Raquel leave? Oh, she's here. Okay. That's it. So I'm going to pray for you guys. Is that okay? All right, why don't you guys stand up? I would encourage you guys, though, if you, I don't want to make this all, like, mystical. But if you really want to do that, like, know Jesus better, I would just encourage you guys to pray with me right now. And just ask him. In the Bible, it also says that no one can draw close to God unless he draws him close, right? So it's not like we can force anything anyways, but we can ask God, God, help me draw close to you. Unless there are people here, which totally could be that you're like, okay, after hearing, I don't want anything to do with God. We'll pray for your soul too, but no. But I would just encourage you guys to pray a sincere prayer and just say, God, I guess I've been that indifferent guy. Or you know what, God, I'm angry about some stuff. God's not afraid of that. But it's time that you can start to change what you think about God. Because everything, the most important things in your life flow out of there. Okay, so let's pray together. God, we really do love you. And I'm grateful that you reveal yourself to us. We're not just kind of guessing, stabbing in the dark. You have left a path for us. It's just not always as clear as we'd like it, God. But I ask for every person here more than anything, that you would reveal a fresh vision of who Jesus is. Because I'm convinced we don't need anything else. Would you reveal to us, God, who Jesus is and what that means for us? That it's not just that you forgive our sins, which sometimes is a term we don't even really understand, but you through that allow us to have this relationship that makes us feel loved and accepted and like we belong, and like all the superficial stuff doesn't matter because you meet our deepest needs and what we really want in life. That is what Jesus is about, God. So help us believe this. Help us come to a place where we can believe it. And so practically, God, I ask that you would remind us. Remind us, God. Remind us of these things. Remind us to read our Bibles. Remind us to read the Gospels. Remind us to think about Jesus. Remind us to inject new thoughts where we've only been thinking about stupid stuff. Allow us, God, to think deeper and to think better and to think about you, so that we can slowly have that penetrate and believe and become the belief that you want it to be. That we believe really in who you are, not just what we want you to be. I ask that you would help every person here, God. Help them to see you as you really are. Help them to see themselves as they really are. Help them to see this world as it really is, God. Reveal to us what we really believe and help us to change that, God. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen. Good night. No, I don't know. Thank you guys for listening. Thank you for listening. I feel like some of you are still like listening, which is really cool because I feel like I talked a lot. But I just encourage you guys. All of this is like accessible for you guys. You got this. You can do this. Remember, less Outer Banks, more Jesus. That's it. That's the formula. No, but we love you guys. Thank you so much for coming. Honestly, if you guys take a minute and just kind of like